Hey everybody, it's Jonathan. So, one of my favorite parts of the year has to be E3. The beginning of every June's just kind of filled with excitement and fun, with all the new announcements and gameplay trailers and just all the video game stuff going on. So, I've always kind of enjoyed watching the press conferences, and I enjoyed talking about the games, so I figured why not take some notes and talk about it with y'all a little bit. So I'm going to go through kind of by each press conference. I'm really a Nintendo fan. I'm also a Sony fan, but they weren't really here this year, so I'll skip over that. And I'll probably get to that at some point. So I'll just go in order. So starting off with Xbox. So Xbox is like the one console I don't have. I've never owned an Xbox, a 360, or any of the versions of the Xbox One that there are. I just kind of don't find their games to be particularly compelling. There's not a whole lot from this conference that really grabbed me and brought me in a lot. But I figured, I wanted to watch it, especially since Sony wasn't there, which was kind of weird. I guess I can just talk about it now. The fact that Sony wasn't there just kind of made it feel like this was a much smaller E3. You had Bethesda and Square Enix and Ubisoft to kind of fill in a little bit. But having Sony gone just kind of made it seem less cool to me. And maybe that's just because I, between Microsoft and Sony, I like Sony a lot more. But yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of weird, and I understand why they did it. They just didn't have much to say, and they're gonna gear up for next year because they're gonna bring out the next PlayStation, the PlayStation 5 or whatever they decide to call it. So I don't blame them. This definitely, for all of E3, this kind of felt like an in-between year. So because of that, I went into Xbox kind of expecting them to be like, oh, look how good we are because we're here and they're not. And it's kind of like, okay, whatever. And they did kind of tout that a little bit throughout where they're like, we have 60 games and we're going to show off all these great things, the most games ever at E3 because we're like the only major conference. Spoiler alert, they were fine. It was pretty middle of the road for me. I don't want to go through the entire thing just kind of because it doesn't really matter and you can go watch it all. And everybody has different preferences and I'm not a news channel, so there's no point in talking about every little thing. But just to kind of pick out a couple of things, the thing that kind of stood out the most to me, and it kind of sucks because this was kind of EA's thing and they showed it before, was the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game. So growing up, I loved playing Battlefield 2 with my friends, the old one, not the new one, that's kind of whatever. I would annoy my friends often by wanting to play the mode where you're all the different Jedi and put it so that you have to kill 100 characters to win in the highest amount and spend 30 minutes running around in kind of a silly little mode that isn't as intuitive or fun as the gun shooting stuff. But I was never into the gun shooting stuff. I just wanted to use a lightsaber because I thought that was a lot more fun. So any chance I got at a Star Wars game that looked intriguing, I went for, but there weren't a lot. The Force Unleashed was kinda. I never really got into it. But I think this one actually looks relatively intriguing, and I don't know if it's just because it looks better as a game. That it could be any of the above. But it does look like it's got a little bit more polish to it. Now, it is EA, and they are known for kind of making mistakes with their games, so I'm not going to, put all my chips in right now. But I will say that it looks like a fun first-person adventure game, and that's kind of what I think the Star Wars games need to be. There's totally a place for the Battlefront games. But we've been due for a really solid one-player adventure Star Wars game. And I think this has the possibility of doing that. It's got a lot of... It gives me the vibe of kind of Zelda. Not so much so in a dungeon way, but just kind of in that it's that kind of adventure. So I'm hoping that we just see more of it, and it just turns out really good. Lots of force pulling, slowing down time. It seems like they're going to play around with what exactly the force can do, which is totally cool. I like how they're throwing in characters from Rogue One, since this is kind of where it's set in that part of the story. So I'm intrigued. The rest of Microsoft Xbox wasn't too cool. I mean, it was fine. Minecraft Dungeons seems like a fun new Minecraft experience for those who like it. Ori and the Blind Forest, or Ori and the Will of the Wisp, I guess, for this one. That's a series that I've always wanted to get into, and this one looks just like more of the same beautiful, fun world that they created. Battletoads coming back is cool. Psychonauts 2. I'm just kind of glad that we're getting more 3D platforming goodness in the world. And Psychonauts 2 is a good example. I'm also glad that it's, even though Microsoft bought the company, it's coming to PlayStation, so I can play it. Psychonauts, the first one I haven't played, but I am definitely, it's like on top of my list to get into play right now. Just because it seems like it's right up my alley. Not so much the style of the story and the animations and the graphics, but more of the gameplay. Kind of a collect-a-thon almost. So that's super cool. The new Lego Star Wars is fun. It's kind of cool to see Legos in Forza. Not that I play the game. The indie game, 12 minutes. Every once in a while, an indie game comes along that's just out of left field, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's like super cool. This was one of them for me. You kind of go and do like the same, I'm assuming, 12 minutes of these characters' lives. And you like kind of slowly discover like exactly what's going on, because they didn't really give it away. But it all seems to be in just this little tiny apartment with like a bedroom, bathroom, and living area. So that seems absolutely just all sorts of fun. I think Flight Simulator is something that anyone should just try out for 5 minutes and be like, oh, cool. Because as I was watching, I'm like, yeah, I'd like to fly around, but what else? So fly around for a little bit, get over it all, make it real easy to fly, don't make it too simulation-like, because I just want to go all over the place. You can throw in like the serious stuff for the people who like it, but not for me. I just want to go, ooh, look at this pretty place. The sky is beautiful. These clouds look so real. Phantasy Star Online 2, which I gotta say, just kinda looks... doesn't look, but it's more fun to know that that's coming. I just have heard about it, and it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, cool, they're doing that. And Tales of Arise, another fun Tales game. I like RPGs, or JRPGs, excuse me, so whenever I see them, they always kind of pique my interest. There's something about the aesthetics, and I'm like, that's fun. But the thing is, everything I just kind of talked about is like, when I think of Xbox, is like the opposite. And I can't tell you how many of those games are Xbox exclusives for the most part. Maybe none of them. Well, I guess Flight Simulator. The thing about the rest of the games that were shown off is that even if they looked cool, like, they didn't show any gameplay. They had these really cool, like, cinematic CG trailers, which are super fun, but when you're oversaturated with them, like I felt this conference was, it's kind of like, and stuff like Outer Worlds, the Blair Witch game, Cyberpunk 2077, it just kind of all starts to blend together. I didn't even write down most of them, I think. But those are like the big ones. Gears 5, oh my gosh, that went on forever. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't really care. I don't play the Gears games, and there wasn't that much gameplay. So, like, 3 trailers, but we're barely gonna show any gameplay. And like, I get they have, like, they might have booths for some of them at the show floor, but like, this was their chance to capture someone like me who doesn't play Xbox games. If they wanted to sell me on Gears 5, they lost me, because I didn't see anything about Gears 5. I just saw what they thought it was going to be about, or what they were telling people it was going to be about. I didn't see what it was about. Same with Cyberpunk 2077. Everyone's like, oh, it's super cool. And I agree. It looks really cool. It's great that Keanu Reeves is there. But what is the game? They showed us little tiny snippet of stuff, but the thing is, when they did, it was super generic. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a fine game and people will love it, and the story looks super cool. But is it just a regular third or a first-person shooter? Because if so, why care? I mean, so that was kind of, and for most of E3, that was my problem, was just too many trailers, not enough gameplay. And like, you can do trailers, that's what the whole thing is. It's marketing. But if you only show conceptual CG things, we're not going to really care as much as if you show us that with some gameplay. And like, not even like, here's kind of gameplay, but like, we took out most of the things and look at these cool angles. Like, no, how's it going to look when I'm playing? That's what matters to me. Like, okay, Elden Ring, I think is a really cool concept. I didn't see anything, and that's fine. They were just announcing that game, so it's, you kind of can give them a pass on that. But like, more, like, show us stuff. Same with Halo Infinite. We didn't see anything. I mean, that's their big woohoo, it's gonna be here, and people will go crazy and buy it no matter what it is. But like, there's Master Chief in this weird spaceship, and their big circle ship, I don't play Halo, excuse me, big circle ship is destroyed. What will happen next? Who knows? Other things of note from this conference, Game Pass, which is kind of a theme for this, the whole streaming service. Until someone does it well, I'm probably not going to get any of it. I think if studios do it, then it's just going to become too big of a thing, just in general. You need to kind of shrink it. You need to do a Microsoft, or excuse me, an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Switch version. I would be cool if there was like an indie streaming service that like makes a lot of sense and kind of incentivizes people to play indie games a little more. But if you're doing like a million different streaming services, like, no one cares. I mean, not enough to the point where they're going to pay for all of them, and then it just kind of gets split up, and it just seems too messy to me. But who knows? Maybe someone will come up with a great idea. Maybe one of the millions that they announced this past couple of days will hit it out of the park. I think the fact that Nintendo hasn't done anything with that yet kind of shows that we're not quite to that era yet, because either Nintendo will try it and fail or try it and be the best. But until one of those two things happen, we're not in the streaming service era. So we're kind of getting there, I think. And then they talked about Project Scarlet, their new Xbox, and like they just kind of talked about things that were very abstract and didn't show them off, and it's just kind of like, it's coming, which is cool, but like, okay, until you show me stuff, I don't particularly care. I kind of talked over EA. They actually went before Xbox. The thing that I don't care about is most of what they showed, so I didn't watch it. But I did watch their Star Wars thing, so, and I talked about that already. It just looks cool. Besides that, if you like sports and Anthem, go for it. But not me. Bethesda was a big disappointment. I really didn't care for most of what they showed. As bad as that sounds. Mobile games are the new way of life. No, they're not. It's fine if you like those franchises and you want to support and whatever, but like, it's not that big of a deal to me. So most of it went completely far away. Who cares? Doom Eternal seemed to be their biggest thing. And it looked cool. They did show a little bit of gameplay. It looks like Doom. But for me, the biggest surprise that I found, maybe it had been announced, but was the Ghostwire Tokyo game. They only showed another silly CG trailer, but it was like the most intriguing because it seemed kind of different. It could just be generic once they show off the gameplay, who knows. But the concept of this kind of Thanos-esque world is really, I mean, ever since I saw Endgame, was kind of like, I want to know more of what that would be like. So I'm hoping this game kind of explores that a little bit. It looks a little spooky, so I don't think it will explore too much. But it's still kind of cool, so that's probably all I would pay attention to if I coming out of the Bethesda conference. Developer Digital, is that what they're called? I watched their 20-minute thing. That company does not really work with me. They've got a very unique sense of humor, which I appreciate but don't like. It's very grotesque, it's very shock value, and they seem to do well with it. The only thing that really stood out to me was their bootleg game, just for the sheer ridiculousness of it. But besides that, it seemed like they were doing something fun and showed, like 6 games in 20 minutes, but could be worse. Whatever. They're not the biggest name to me, so I didn't care too much. Next is Ubisoft, and there was a lot I liked about this conference, in that I liked one game. They started out really strong with their Watch Dogs Legion game, and the thing I liked is that they actually did an extensive gameplay section, which was much needed. The thing that's so interesting to me is that it's got this Fire Emblem permadeath feature, where you kind of build up your squadron, and if one of the characters dies, you're out of luck, they're gone. The thing that I got 2 things that really stand out about that. The first thing is that it's taking this idea and putting it in an entirely different context. This is a game I haven't seen anything like it before. Because now you are doing this kind of one-person adventure, but if you die, you die, and you just have to switch characters, And it's got, if that character dies, the entire game can change. And I think that's something that was always kind of cool about the Fire Emblem games. So it's cool to see them try to do that here. The other thing is just the variety of characters you can play as. And what I mean by that is more in a gameplay sense than a story sense, because the story will be cool too. But the fact of the matter is, and they really showed this off, you get to play as an old woman. And the old woman is a retired assassin or whatever her backstory is. But when have you ever actually played as an old woman? And a realistic old woman who, when she walks, kind of doesn't walk as fast, And there's a lot of more, the way she fights, the way she jumps over a railing are all more to her. And then all of a sudden you have to start thinking a little differently about how you play, because the conventions are all flipped on their head. And I like stuff like that. It changes the gameplay entirely, not just for the game, but also just in general, because now you can't think like you've used to think, When you're playing a 20, 30, 40-something-year-old, you know how the character's going to move to a certain extent. I would like to see a little bit more inclusion in this game if they're going to truly go this, there are so many people you can recruit. Let's get someone in a wheelchair. Let's get multiple races and genders and all different representations in there. But let's think about how it works in a gameplay. Let's get someone who's a little heavier set, someone who's really small, someone who's really big, just that's the thing that makes me most excited, is that the characters look different. If all the characters moved the same, even if they had different skills, it would be whatever. But the fact that you have these different skills on top of different types of people to play as really makes this interesting to me. The rest of the conference was just kind of Ubisoft doing their thing. I mean, there's the silly stuff like Just Dance 2020 coming for Nintendo Wii. It's kind of okay, well, did you do that just to be silly and to get that kind of maybe publicity? They're still making games for the Wii, and it's this one, Or is there a legitimate install base who's only there? Who knows? And then the rest of it just kind of seemed like Tom Clancy. They did a TV show, which was kind of cool, but the rest really does seem like it was boring. More streaming services. Bethesda did one too. The last game that they showed, what's it called? God and Monsters, was really cool looking, but at the same time, it wasn't very shown off. It was a trailer. It was another one of those teaser trailer things, which is fine. But the art style and kind of the theming and the mythic quality to it was super cool to me. But yeah, Ubisoft had a strong beginning, strong last 3 minutes, and then kind of the rest was whatever. So at this point, I was kind of like, this is fine. But then, Square Enix, and I knew the last two are the Square Enix and Nintendo were going to steal the show, and sure enough, they did. Okay, so for me, I think, just before I get into these two, Square Enix for me had the most exciting game of all the conferences, and Nintendo had the best presentation of them all, okay? Obviously for Square Enix, it's Final Fantasy VII Remake. The rest of their conference was good too, and I'll go all over all that. But the thing that makes me so excited about what they did with Final Fantasy is they showed off gameplay. Like, you don't know how refreshing that is after sitting through all of that stuff. Well, you probably did because you watched it all too, but you know what I'm saying. The thing I like about the gameplay is that it is a combination of the original and now. And what I mean by that is pretty much all the same skills that you would have used in the original, your magic, your special attacks, your items, were a quote-unquote turn. Well, now you have, in the form of the active time thing, gauge at the bottom, you have your turns filling up with time. But instead of standing there waiting and doing all that, you get to be a little bit more active, and it makes the battles feel more alive because of that. You get to run around, dodge attacks, do chip damage to help fill up your attacks. And I think that just makes the whole thing much more exciting. And I think that's what's most exciting to me. The graphics are great. The voice acting is surprisingly amazing. I don't know what they did to Cloud. I think they got a new actor. But, like, wow. So cool. League's better than, like, he sounds like he's a person. Not that he wasn't before, but he doesn't sound so moody, and I kind of like that. The other thing is that the battle that they showed off was so long. Like, they had to cut it out, and I don't know if that was just to splice together the best clips of multiple takes, but, like, even if you just count the amount of time they spent on it, showing it off, it was still pretty hefty. And it just makes me think that this is going to be something we haven't seen before. This whole thing seems like it's just a reinvention of their style, of their techniques, of their everything. I mean, even the story's different. And in a way, it's going to be completely brand new. Which is nice, because now you can still play the original and get something unique out of it. Which is something that sometimes is kind of, when you get remakes, it's like, oh, bummer, this original doesn't matter now. Well, it still will with this, which is kind of cool. I liked how you can stagger, a la Final Fantasy 13. I like how you can switch characters on the fly. The thing I kind of am a little iffy about, they gave us a release date of next March, which is cool, but I don't know how the episodicness is going to work out. They've kind of been vague on that, and I'm not really sure why. I feel like that's something you're going to want to put up front. How many games are we buying? They mentioned in here how it's 2 Blu-ray discs. But is that 2 Blu-ray discs for a first episode, quote-unquote, or is it 2 games entirely? I don't know. Hopefully, as the week goes on, we get a little clarification, because these games are... this game is going to be on the show floor, so fingers crossed that Square Enix does a little bit of explaining. But overall, super cool, great trailers, great gameplay, great music. Everything is so cool, and it's a great game, and everyone should play it, and I'm going to play it, and it's going to be amazing. Moving on from that, there's Life is Strange 2, a series that I have not gotten into, but after that trailer, it's like it revitalized my longing to get into it, which is cool. Crystal Chronicles was shown. The Last Remnant remastered is out right now, so like that's cool. I always like those kind of what's it called? I don't know, but those like it's dropping right now moments. Those are like, oh, cool. That cool thing that I'm watching right now, I can play it. Let's do it. Dragon Quest Builder looks fun if you're into kind of a builder games. It seems like it's a very Minecraft thing, but a little bit more story and gameplay in a fighting way, which is cool. Dragon Quest, the one for Switch, is it 12 or 11? I should look that up, but I won't. The new one for Switch every time they show Dragon Quest, I'm like, oh man, I really want to try it because it looks right up my alley. And I never have. And I think this one for Switch is going to be the one that gets me into it, especially because of what we'll talk about later. We'll get there. They showed the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC trailer, which they released a couple days before at the concert. My opinions on that are, at first I hated it. I didn't hate it, but at first it concerned me until I realized it was a teaser. This is another thing that they haven't really talked about, how it's going to work, which they need to for me to really get on board. Nomura has talked about, there's going to be a new scenario, and there's going to be a limit cut episode, and it's like, you're just saying words to me. I don't really know what you mean unless you use more specific. You're going to have a DLC experience where you play as this character. It's going to be 2 hours. On top of that, new bosses in the story, in the original story with new cutscenes. That kind of stuff is what I need. Very laid out. What are we getting? Once I saw it, once I figured out it was a teaser, I kind of backed off. It's coming in the winter, which is cool. And seeing Roxas playable is fun. But that's also like, how's that working? Is this like changing up what's there? Is this too many questions? And no Disney in that trailer. Come on. It's a Disney game. Like, show me Disney. They talked for a long time about Final Fantasy XIV. I don't play it, but it looked cool. They showed off some cool new games that all looked great, but I don't have anything to say about them. It's cool to see Final Fantasy VIII getting the remaster that it deserved. That Nintendo Direct where they're like, here's 60 games from Final Fantasy coming to the Switch, was great, but the fact that it was missing 8 was kind of like, that's odd. So I'm glad that they're doing it now. And then they ended with the Avengers, and I am very iffy about the Avengers. I think I have to see more, and I know that they're showing it this week, so that's good. I like the concept of a a one-player Avengers experience, something akin to the Spider-Man game, but with Avengers, and you get to switch character. That would be really cool. I don't think that's what this game is. It seems like this game is more of a multiplayer online experience where you get missions to play through and battle through, and you get to pick your characters, and it's tactical, which, when you think about it in that way, and if you're into that kind of game, is super cool, because instead of everybody having a gun, like in some games that do that, you actually have powers. We'll just have to see how it goes. They showed a lot of trailer footage, not a lot of gameplay. They showed stuff that could have been gameplay, but I don't know if it was. And they talked about how it's going to be constantly updated for free, which I like. I like their business model for it. I just need to see how it plays. I've never gotten into one of those games that's like, you have to team up. I hope there's some way to do something in a single player, but if there's not, that's fine. It's just something I'm going to have to see more. And I think they really have to tune up those character models. I get that they're trying to differentiate them, but they're also not. It's very weird. Like, it was very off-putting. And I don't know if that's because I associate those characters with the cinematic universe actors. Like, oh, that is like Uncanny Valley Robert Downey Jr. But it's just weird. And when Iron Man's in his suit and when it's Hulk, it's kind of fine. But when it's the Thor and Tony and Bruce and Captain America and Black Widow, it's kind of like, ugh. So I think that they got to tune that up. Besides that, it kind of looks really good, graphics-wise. And I think that they've got time. It comes out next May, so they have almost a full year to tune all that up. So fingers crossed they do that. So that's Square Enix, all fun, good. And then this morning, Nintendo came in and was like, everybody shut up. It's our turn. So, came out of the gate with the Dragon Quest hero. For Smash Brothers, I liked how they had multiple heroes as costumes. I'm not sure, having not played a Dragon Quest game, if the hero is an appropriate title, if those characters have names, or if it's like Pokemon where they have a name if you don't want to be creative, but it's not used that often for story purposes. But it looks super cool to have them there. I got kind of a Robin feel of the character from it, but getting more and more different video game characters and franchises to come in. Super cool. And then going into the Dragon Quest game that's coming to Switch, again, still looks like something I'm going to pick up. And then they had Luigi's Mansion 3. And I loved Dark Moon, and I have the one for the original for my 3DS. This looks super cool. It looks super refined. It looks super cheesy and almost campy, and the standard Luigi's Mansion fare, which I just kind of like. So awesome. I like Goo EG. It's just kind of a dumb idea, and it works for 2-player. It's kind of weird how Luigi kind of slumps over, but you know, what else would they have done? Him just standing there like, oh, no, like, that makes sense. It just kind of, it looks super cool. I like that they're doing this hotel with the multiple different floors, and each floor has like a different theming. It seems to kind of work to give us the variety of Dark Moon, but in the singular location of the original, which I like. And all the new moves, like the slam and the jump and all that, it's like, oh, cool. It's really funny to see him just slam a ghost on the ground. Then there was the remake of Link's Awakening, which that game just aesthetically looks so cute. So cute. Like, they showed a little amiibo later on in the day, and like, it's like a tin toy, and you're like, oh, it's so shiny and adorable, and just looking up at you with those little dot eyes. Like, put it on your desk and just marvel in it, you know? And they have the dungeon making thing. It seems like it's a little more mission based than what I first thought. I first thought it was going to be like a Mario Maker for dungeons, and hopefully this is like them testing the waters for that, because that would just be cool. But yeah, it's super cool. Just make your own dungeons and figure out how quick you can get through it, you know? Then we have Trials of Mana, which is super cool that game is coming to America for the first time. It seems like a very loved game, and getting the whole collection of the originals on the eShop, even cooler, in my opinion. And I think, that came out today, too, which is like, oh, awesome. Getting Witcher 3 on the Switch is just kind of awesome for the fact that it can run on the Switch. Chances are it doesn't run as well as the PlayStation, but that's okay. The fact that the Switch can even play, it's a big deal. Just makes you think, why are developers afraid to put it on the Switch, you know? I can't think of many other big games. I guess Persona 5 would be another big game that they could put on the Switch that would be impressive at this point. And then there was Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Fire Emblem I've kind of played, kind of got into. I'm not big into the tactical games. The one that I like the most is Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, but it looks high quality, and that's what I like. They kind of only showed a trailer, not too much gameplay, but they had shown gameplay before, and that's coming out in like a month or two, so I'm not shocked. Hopefully it does well. If it does really well, I'll pick it up. They showed Resident Evil 5 and 6 is coming with a weird trailer that didn't show Resident Evil 5 and 6. It showed the first one. I think that was the first one. So it's kind of like, what was the point? But nonetheless, cool that it's coming. No More Heroes 3. I haven't played any of the first two. It would be cool if those came out on Switch so I can feel it out. But it's always seemed like a fun, kooky game. And I know people have been wanting it, so it's cool to see it here. A new Contra game and a new Contra Anniversary package for the eShop today. Didn't know they were still making Contra games, honestly, but super cool. This one has a panda, so if you've ever wanted to see a panda go around shooting things, this is your game. Daemon X Machina is a game that every time they show it, I think, oh, I like flying around in a robot, but like, what do you do? And even they showed it at the Treehouse event today, and like, it made a little bit more sense that it's a mission structure, but I'm still kind of like, what do you do? That's another one of those games that I'm going to wait till reviews come out before I make a decision on whether or not I get it. If it comes out and people are like, whoa, this is actually really fun, then I'll get it. Panzer Dragoon remake, flying around on a dragon. If you like the original, get it. If you don't know what it is, get it. It looks fun. I've never played it, but it looks cool. They talked about Pokemon like a smidgen because they talked so much about it a week ago. They showed off the new gym leader, water type, so that's cool. And they said that the Pokeball Plus from Let's Go works, but not as a remote, just as to take your Pokemon around. So, and if you still have the Mew on it from when you got it, that can be transferred in, which kind of made more sense in the Let's Go games. But having a Mew in this new region's kind of like weird. But hey, if you have it, use it, I guess. I love Mew. Mew's cute, adorable. I want to use it, so you should too. Astral Chain still is a game that looks really cool. It's platinum. They showed off a lot more gameplay and how those little, I don't know what they're called. I don't know enough of the game, but like the astrals, I'll imagine they're called. The guys that are like chained to you can help you maneuver through the environment on top of fight, which I think is cool. You get a little bit of, I don't know if I would call it platforming, but exploration is probably the better word. And getting that with their help of moving things around and opening up secret paths is another good use of them. It's a game that's on my radar, but again, I have to see more. I have to see what the reviews are. It's coming out soon, so we'll just see what happens. Empire of Sin looks like a fun gangster game. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. The other ones are kind of weird. I don't like how they look. They're very dark, and the character models are weird and off. This one doesn't. This looked like that. It seems like it's a little brighter. Character models are a little bit more on brand, so I might pick it up. It's a fun beat-em-up, 4-person game, and I like multiple characters, so it seems like fun. Cadence of Hyrule comes out in like a matter of days. It's just intriguing. I don't know much about the original. The original went under my radar and obviously puts out on it and becomes top of the list for people, but I like the concept. Mario and Sonic. Eggman's in a Olympic outfit, which was weird. That's literally my only takeaway. I know they did like surfing, skateboarding, but when they showed the first shot of everybody doing the racing and Eggman's in that weird red athletic wear, it just, like, you can put that on Sonic, you can put that on other characters, and it's fine. Seeing the big round Eggman in that was kind of like, odd. I think it'll be another Mario and Sonic game. It could be great, it could be mediocre, it'll sell. Then there was Animal Crossing, which Animal Crossing is a game I appreciate but don't play, just because I'm not someone who in the past has been ultra uber play this game now every single day person, you know? But it looks cute. I like that it's on an island. It seems like there's a lot more customization. I don't even play the game, so maybe this is not a big deal, but to me, you can make your own pathways across the island. Like, that's super cool. Like, you can really make this your own, and I like that. And like, it seems like there's a lot of multiplayer in there, and it just seems like a really good quality game. I'm not shocked it got postponed. It got delayed until March. I think that's better for the game because there won't be as much coming out, although I guess Final Fantasy. But whatever. That's at the beginning. This is at the end of the month. I just think it'll give a wider audience to the game because it has its fans, but it doesn't have the biggest amount. It just has like the hardcore fans. So getting a little bit more newcomers because there's not much going on, I think is to its benefit. And then I did a sizzle reel of games that are coming to the Switch that there's no real point in talking too much about, but are just kind of like, here they all are. Lots of cool games in there, starting off with Spyro, the Reignited Trilogy, which I kind of was expecting, but it's still great. It's a great trilogy, and it deserves to be on the Switch, just like Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. So good for them. The Ni no Kuni remaster of the original's coming, which is like super cool. If it's like a good remaster, get it for the Switch. It's a great game. I saw that I had been perusing PlayStation's YouTube channel just to keep up with games they're putting trailers out for, and I saw that literally before the Direct, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Didn't see it was for the Switch. So when I saw it there, I was like, that's awesome. It totally is a game that could be on the Switch. It's great for on-the-go play and stuff. So, like, put it there. Go for it. For me, Super Lucky Tale, I think that's what it's called, just kind of seems up my alley, so I'm going to check that out. All in all, there's like an Alien Isolation game, just a bunch of really cool-looking games coming to the Switch, and I think that's good to see all those different games. And then the big thing, Banjo-Kazooie in Smash Brothers. This is so cool. The fact of the matter is, the type of game that I like is Banjo-Kazooie. I didn't grow up playing Banjo-Kazooie, but when I found out about it, I was like, there it is. That's where it all kind of came from. The 3D platformer, collectathon, exploration, fun, go into this silly world and do things game is my favorite. Seeing him in Smash seems like it's bringing a whole history of Nintendo's life back into this game that's supposed to celebrate that. So it's really cool to see it there. I'm hoping, and I think most people will, that because of this, they're gonna maybe remake the games, or at the very least, just put them on the virtual, on the eShop. Even if it's just the Xbox Live ones that came out a couple years ago, that's fine. The other thing that supports the remake idea in my head is that they didn't just show Banjo-Kazooie in this redesigned form. There's Grunty and Bottles, and in one of the screenshots, Mumbo was off in Grunty's Lair's entrance. So they redesigned and are remaking all these other characters to show them off in the one stage. And that, like, it's serious redesigns. So, like, they have to be working on something, either a new game or a remake. And if they're putting them Banjo on Switch right now, when Microsoft and Rare decide to do something, I'm really crossing my fingers that it comes to Switch too, because they're awesome and they need another game and they need a remake, and the more Banjo-Kazooie jiggy hunting I can have, the better. And then we get to the end of the show. Breath of the Wild 2, super cool, came out of nowhere, a creepy trailer that was like, oh, now I'm intrigued. It's just one of those, it's another cinematic thing, which is fine because they're just like, they weren't even giving us a release schedule or a title. It's just a this is happening trailer. So it was good to see that. Pretty hyped way to end the direct. To have Banjo-Kazooie and then get and we have one more thing. It's kind of like, what could top Banjo, you know? So they found probably one of like 3 things that could top Banjo. Without taking away from Banjo either, because there's not much to really do with that information other than have it. The game's coming. They're working on it. Now go back to celebrating that Banjo's coming out in a few months, in fall, you know? So, overall, good E3. Nintendo had the best conference. Square Enix had the best game. The first half was kind of whatever. The last 2 were kind of amazing. There wasn't a whole lot else that was going on. The only other thing that really popped out to me that didn't show up in any of the different conferences was Destroy All Humans. THQ Nordic was showing off that game. And then they also announced SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, which I love and have a whole nother video talking about. So, either that's out now or will be out soon. But yeah, I don't like giving grades, but overall this was for what the year was, not having an EA conference or a Sony, big one, Sony conference, kind of put my expectations low. Some companies were meeting my expectations and some put it over the top. What do you think? Let me know below. Do you hate everything that I like? Do you love everything I hate? Those are the same 2 things. I don't know, but hey, tell me anyways. Happy E3, everyone. Here's to another one next year. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.